touch on that. Did you guys, I'm sure you've heard about it from the previous session earlier about the long-term functional care screens, how CHP is not going to, even if you call to request, do one for 6 to 8 weeks until after the change has gone through. For instance, say one of your residents fell and broke an ankle. Okay, that's a cast for what, 6, 7 weeks? So you're doing 6 or 7 weeks worth of extra care, and you're basically just eating it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
How is that fair? Yeah, how is that fair?
It's not. I mean, it's just simply not.
I have an overall, all-encompassing question.
Yes.
Not to why you are still in business, because this is your livelihood. Why is CHP still in business?
Wow.
Well, I got in some trouble last year when I gave an interview to the Leader Telegram, and I said I thought they ought to be taken over by, that they ought to go into receivership because of the way they were handling some of these cases where they were just not making logical decisions or decisions that really result in the best outcomes for people. And you know, you have to be careful about how you say this. There might be issues with the way they're being managed, but they're also on the receiving end of some things that need to change as well. And that is that if there's a belief at the state level that every area of the state can be basically in the same boat with respect to funding without respect to individual differences, like how many people are out of northern Wisconsin Center or how much competition you have from the Twin Cities and as far as labor markets and everything else, then I think that they're making bad decisions at the state level too. So there is some shared responsibility there.
You know, I
don't want to apologize for CHP.
Yeah, I was in county clerk for 12 years, and I remember the transition, shutting down Northern Center, and going to meetings with the DHS, the governor's representative, saying that this is going to provide a consistency for these residents, a home-like environment. And it sounds to me like they've been just bounced around. It sounds to me like some of them, not all of them, but some of them. I mean, I know people that worked at Northern Center that provided very good care for these folks, and it was home for them, and they did cook on a stove with them, and they took them.
And a lot of those people actually ended up taking care of them when they moved into the community too.
So, you know, but now that continuity isn't even there for them.
That's right.
And I know some developmentally disabled folks that need consistency and continuity, and things need to be the same for them.
Absolutely.
And you change it, and you've just ripped the rug right out from underneath.
You know, you probably could have argued the case in Milwaukee County that he was arguing, because that's what he was saying back in 2004 and 2005. These are not widgets. You can't just move them from one place to another without consequences happening. There needs to be continuity of care. They need to be around people who know them. They need to be around their friends. And to do otherwise is really to mistreat some of these folks.
And the discussion was, at the time, we seem to have understood that this plan to move them all into the community was not going to be less expensive.
Right.
And they pretended it would be,
yeah,
and then admitted later it wouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we have these escalating costs, which puts me in a predicament, folks, that we don't know how to handle. And the stimulus money, the one-time monies that went into Medicaid, masqueraded the problem, put a Band-Aid on it for 1 or 2 years, and now we have taken all of any cuts that we made in the state budget went into Medicaid, and we're still short.
I'm gonna sound like Newt Gingrich, because I'm gonna say frankly. What actually I think is happening here is that there's a transfer of resources in order to meet the needs in the entitlement part of the program, especially those counties that have reached entitlement. A lot of people who are older adults who deserve services just like anybody else who didn't have them before are now getting them. And part of the way that's happening is that some of the cuts that are being made on this side of the ledger for developmental disabilities, for people who truly do need more extensive supports. In fact, when the actuaries looked at the cost differences at the beginning of the program, when Rock mentioned that there were these boxes of correspondence that we reviewed. I happened to review all of them, pretty much. And the services for people with developmental disabilities at that time cost twice as much across the board in all 5 pilot counties as the services for people with elderly. who are elderly. Now, I think that that ratio has changed over time. And when things like we're hearing about here take place, you have to question, are we meeting that commitment that we made to these people who left Gordon Center to have a continuity of services and to make sure that they got the things they needed outside of the institution?
And we expanded Badger Care significantly too, and I know that's one whole big pot of money.
So we've got entitlements, we've got a lot of spending that took place, and it shouldn't be, Governor Doyle, frankly, when he began expanding family care, he was asked a question by Barbara Wisniewski, who was, at that time, she was the coordinator of the Wisconsin Long-Term Care Workforce Alliance. And she asked him, are you going to balance the budget for family care on the backs of the people who do the work? Now, he said no. If I had to answer that question now, how do you think we would answer that? It's being balanced on the backs of the people who do the work. That's not right.
Yep. And I'm going to give a little more nuanced answer to your question. It's not often to talk directly to a state legislator. But there are savings to be had here. If we were to say to the provider community, 5 years from now, we want the system to look like this, we want people who are now at this level to be in less restricted places, you can probably do a lot of things with a lot of people. But right now, we're just churning folks. And we're making such short-term decisions about people.
Not a long-range plan.
Right. And then the other thing is, there's some really neat stuff that was supposed to come together with special education and DVR and family care. And people I work with are actually getting that, but by and large, we have such an opportunity to say to 18 to 21-year-olds with developmental disabilities, you have got more resources aimed at you than anybody in history. Mm-hmm. What's the 5-year plan for making you more independent? And instead, the MCOs are saying, I hope we can get by with spending next to nothing on these folks and just letting them hang out for a while. And we'll worry about them some other time when they come into the system.
Or we'll make them DVR's responsibility and we won't play a part in it.